Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company.
Everything happening in the community and tells you how you can use that to your real estate advantage. And now, here's your host, Dick Barr.
Hello and welcome back. This is Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr. I'm your host, Dick Barr, here with the lovely Christin Kaufman. Say hello.
Welcome back, everyone.
And back in the studio this week, the great Sly Marinca of the Sly Marinca Team at Cross Country Mortgage.
Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Whoa, a little pit in there.
Sorry, a little hot.
No,
today.
not your fault. Not your fault. I'm telling you, when we do the mic test on the preamp, it's always different than when we go live. We've got to bring them down. And we got a special guest in the studio for our featured segment. We got Ashley Jensen, who's a real estate broker in Northern Illinois, as well as a candidate for Illinois State Senate. Ashley, say hello.
Hi, everybody.
Excellent. Welcome to the studio. And I took a little bit longer on the intro there because I was my laptop was going a little slow while I was trying. Everything's falling apart. My mic just
Oh
fell.
my goodness.
Oh boy.
Oh, let's see
That's
here.
okay. We're real estate agents. We're born and bred to embrace the chaos.
We adapt.
Absolutely.
We adapt and pivot. Okay, I think I got it. The little mouse you hear is me squeaking the little nozzle. Okay, welcome
Couldn't have
back.
happened 30 seconds ago.
I know, right? That's how live radio works. I'm hearing myself a little bit hot on the left. On the left, not so much on the right. Anyway, today, July 3rd, Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024, day before Independence Day.
Yeah, it is.
And today's going to be our Freedom Show. So, any hot plans for the 4th?
I'll be going to the Vernon Hills fireworks with my family. We go there every year.
Nice.
They do a great display. Them and Liberty would be fantastic.
They do, and I'm always really pleased with the just entire experience. I usually find it pretty easy to find parking. I usually find it pretty easy to get in and out of the crowd. I usually find that the crowd is pretty patient with each other, which is kind of hard to find. So I went there the first year I had a child, which I had tons of anxiety about my first year taking my little baby out into fireworks. I don't know. You're Sly, you're laughing.
Yeah,
Sly,
same.
You went through the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just such an easy experience the first time around, even though I was anticipating a lot of trouble. And so ever since then, I'm like, sign me up. That's where I'm going. Easy peasy.
Yeah, we do the Antioch Parade every year with
Yeah.
friends. Same thing. And when our kids were little, like the first year, we lined up right on the street, not thinking that every fire truck and police car that goes by is going to have their sirens blaring. And our daughter just lost it.
Oh,
we had to walk about a
geez.
block away until they all went away. And then, so she was like scarred for life at loud sirens.
Surprisingly enough, I've always been really lucky with that kind of stuff, even though my oldest is autistic, and so we've been really lucky with the sounds. Yeah, she's always been really cool. As long as the event is cool cool. She's fine with the loud
Nice.
noises. She doesn't care.
Nice.
Yeah.
Does she wear headphones?
She does more often now, kind of just for more like everyday things. You know, like when she's in school, we learned that she really likes it when there's just kind of a lot going on, or if she just kind of needs to withdraw for a little bit. But it really just depends. We always have them on us just in case, because there doesn't seem to be a ton of rhyme or reason as to when she wants them, so we always just have them on hand.
Interesting. So our youngest son is neurodivergent, was at least born with that as well, and he always had to have the earmuffs. But now he's gotten much better. He's turning 12 in 2 days.
Oh my goodness!
He was born a day after the 4th of July. Aww. We think that the fireworks at Libertyville scared him out. What about you, Ashley? Do you have any kids?
I do. I have an 8-year-old girl and a 5.5-year-old boy.
Aww.
Oh, okay.
2's the perfect number, isn't it? I have 2 as well, and I'm like, I'm good.
Same.
I'm done.
I don't know. I think 4 is great. I was one of 4. My wife was one of 5, and we have 4.
I'm one of 7, so
That's big.
It is big, and I'm the oldest of 7, so I actually know what that's like in real time too. So, having a good idea of what big families can be like, I'm like, you know what? I'm good with the 2. I like going places. I like being able to go places with my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Once
and
I start
get
outnumbering
that.
you, that starts to be a lot.
Yeah, and it becomes a challenge. Well, you think about it, everywhere you go, kid prices for things are just like sometimes ridiculous.
Yeah, that too.
It really adds up. I remember when I was a kid, the kid price was always like, hey, between $1 to $5. Now you go to some places and it's like, even though your kid's too young to appreciate what he's about to see, you still got to cough up $25, $18,
100%.
$30.
At this point, my husband and I have a joke where we just talk about how anytime we leave the house, we're spending $100.
Right.
It doesn't matter what we're doing. We're spending $100.
Yeah, you can do that at McDonald's now.
Yeah.
What inflation, guys? What are you talking
That
about?
doesn't exist. Yeah, I always
That
tell
inflation
people,
was already there before anyone took office.
Yeah. I always tell people I'm really good at being a mom of 2. I'm a really fun mom of 2. I don't think I'd be quite as fun if I had 3 and was stretching myself. I think I'd become a little bit more frantic as the kids piled. So I'm good with the 2.
That's quite a lot of honesty right there.
I know who I am.
What would happen if all of a sudden, surprise, here's number 3?
Well, then I'd figure it out. I'm a real estate agent. I'm born and bred to adapt.
We adapt, we
We
pivot.
embrace the chaos.
And what do? We succeed.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'd crush it.
Christin, I want to fix your camera a little bit. I think we're a little bit high on that. So bear with me while we drop. Oh, look at that. Oh, love the top. Great color. Matches your hair.
Kind of, yeah.
Goes very well.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, Sly, I'm sorry I'm not giving you any compliments on your hair or your top.
Oh, thank you. It's okay. I don't need compliments.
Maybe someone will write in and ask if you're wearing a toupee too.
Yes. Yeah, right.
For anyone listening who doesn't know, last week, was it last
Fake
week?
hair.
Dick had
2
to
weeks ago,
address
yeah.
he had to address a rumor of having some fake hair, which apparently we learned is actually a compliment to men.
I would take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
It means your hair is so nice that it's got to be fake.
I don't know. I think it means it looks silly and out of place.
Well, I think that's
Maybe.
just your insecurity talking.
That could be.
I think you should just choose to embrace the compliment.
I agree with you. Right? I'm good at taking what people say about me and turning into compliments.
Good.
Like, hey, you're a beep. Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate
That's my
that.
name, actually.
Right. Exactly. What do you think I go by it? People know my name before they even know it. We're going to get right started with the Market Minute.
Stay on top of the market with Dick Barr's Market Minute.
Dick Barr's Market Minute.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Market Minute on Unlocking Lake County. I'm your host, Dick Barr, here for the July 3rd, 2024 Market Minute for Northwest Lake County. Starting off with the entire region, we've got 164 active properties. That's the highest it's been in a while.
Wow.
44 new listings this week, down from 64 the prior week. 62 properties have gone under contract in the past 7 days, which is about the same as the prior 7. Under contract in the past 30 days, a whopping 173. Big increase from the 117 the prior 30 days. Days on market average is starting to grow. We're seeing 20 days on market, which is still phenomenal, but less than a month's supply of inventory. Lowest priced home sold in the area, $58,000 with a high of $1.2 million. Highest active price, $4.9 million, and a median home price, $360,000. Now, breaking it down, we're going to head over to Antioch, where Antioch's sitting on 33 active homes currently, no longer the highest in the region. 9 new listings this week, about the same from last week. 8 homes have gone under contract in the past 7 days, down from 11 the prior week. 35 homes have gone under contract in the past 30 days, about double the 18 in the prior month. Days on market average in the Antioch area is 22 days with a 0.8 month supply of inventory. Lowest priced home sold was $160,000 with a $1.19 million highest sold. $2.5 million is the highest active property on the market there with a median price of $370,000. Now on over to Volo, Fox Lake, and Ingleside, where they're sitting on 24 homes active on the market. 6 new listings this week compared to 4 the prior. Only 1 home under contract in the past 7 days. Big drop from the 4 the prior week. 12 homes have gone under contract in the past 30 days, slightly up from the 10 in the prior 30. 29 days is the market average. And that looks to be the highest in the region with a 1 month supply of inventory. Lowest price sold home was $100,000 with a high of $830,000. I always feel like a weatherman when I do that. Low with a high of $800,000. And a $1.69 million is the highest active price. $290,000 is the median price. That's the lowest median price in the region. Now on over to Grays Lake, Gages Lake, Haynesville, Third Lake, and Wildwood, where they're sitting on 33 active homes on the market. 10 new listings this week, down from the 17 the prior week. 10 homes have gone under contract in the past 7 days, about the same as the prior 7. And 28 homes have gone under contract in the past 30 days, up from the 18 in the prior. Then we've got a 20 days on market average with a 0.9 month supply of inventory. Lowest price sold home was $160,000. Highest was $675,000. $977,000 is the highest active price, and $327,500 is the median. Now on over to Gurney, Wadsworth, and Old Mill Creek, where they're sitting on 38 active homes. And if you remember, just a couple months ago, Gurney was sitting on 5 or 6 active homes, and now they're the highest active inventory in the entire region. 16 homes have gone under contract in the past 7 days, up from the 10 the prior 7. 28 homes under contract in the past 30 days, about double the prior month. And 17 days on market is the average. It's quick, with a 0.8 month supply of inventory. Lowest home sold is $238,000 with a high of $1.2 million and a $4.9 million highest active property. $445,000 is the median sales price. Now to our backyard of Lindenhurst and Lake Villa, where we're sitting on 27 active homes on the market. That's high for Lake Villa and Lindenhurst. 7 new listings this week, slightly up from 6 the prior. 17 homes have gone under contract in the past 17 days, up slightly from the 13 in the prior week. 28 homes have sold in the past 30 days, about the same as the 24 in the prior month, with a 19 days on market average and average sales time and a half a month supply of inventory. And that's not the lowest. We have one more that's even lower. $110,000 is the lowest price. $885,000 is the high price. $4.5 million is the highest active, and $388,000 is the median sales price. Now to finish up with the Round Lake area, where there are only 9 active properties on the market. 6 new listings this week. Big drop from the prior, where it was double that. 10 homes have gone under contract in the past 7 days, the same as the prior 7. In the past 30 days, 36 properties have sold, 20, which is up from the 26 in the prior month. 15 days on market average, which is the fastest time in the entire region, and only a 0.2 month supply of inventory. For those of you who don't know, or new listeners, month supply of inventory is if no new listings hit the market, how long will it take to sell everything in inventory? And that's, basically a fifth of a month, so less than 1 week. The lowest price home sold in the area was $58,000. Wish I saw that one.
Yeah, right.
That's a deal. Unless it was an outhouse, maybe.
Yeah.
With a high of $645,000. Highest active current price is $519,000, and a median sales price of $302,000. And that'll do it for this week's Market Minute. Guys, what are your thoughts?
It's still tough out there. Honestly, it is still very. As you were giving our market minute, I literally just received a text that one of my clients' offers had been passed up for another. I mean, it's tough out there.
It's funny. Here we are. We're talking about inventory growing and the market kind of cooling a little bit. 3 buyers this past week. We made offers. 2 of them were cash. One of the cash offers was $35,000 over asking, and we got beat out.
Ouch.
Yeah.
$35,000 cash. Over ask, beat out, and this was a substantial in the part of the market where you think is kind of softening, the higher regions, the 400,000 and 500,000.
Absolutely.
What are you seeing out there, Ashley? You're a real estate broker.
Yeah, I mean, I just had a client where we had multiple offers. We won, though, so woohoo! Congratulations!
Hey, congratulations!
But, yeah, definitely still seeing multiple offers out there and very competitive for our buyers.
What I think it is the more desirable a house is, the more hot it is. So if you're going out there with a mediocre product, you might sit out there, and you might have to.
That's what I'm on my end. This last week, 2 weeks, we've actually gotten some FHA offers accepted, some VA offers accepted. Closing cost credits. We got $7,000 in closing cost credits, which we really haven't seen in a while. So I do see it softening a little bit, maybe for the right house. Obviously, if you have a product that everyone wants that, is done up and well priced, it's going to go right away. But maybe, might be a good, and that's what I was going to talk about on my mortgage minute today is, not to lose hope if you are an FHA or VA buyer and that's what you qualify for, that we are seeing some of those offers start to kind of get accepted. And I think that's going to continue, as things soften up a little bit. I've
got a client with a VA loan who's in contract that the seller was actually like, you know what? Because some sellers won't accept a VA because they think it comes with all kinds of regulatory red tape. And
I'm going to debunk that today, by the way.
Oh, sweet. But this seller understood that just because it's 100% financing, it's not because they don't have the cash. They're just taking their benefit provided to them for serving in the military.
Absolutely. Yeah. Rightfully so. Well deserved.
Very well deserved. And the day on the eve of Independence Day, a shout out to all of our vets out there. Yes. Thank you so much for your service and everything you do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, since we're talking about the market, we're quickly approaching the NAR settlement deadline, where things are going to change pretty aggressively, pretty quick. Originally, the NAR settlement was going to go into effect mid-July, and they pushed that back because none of the MLSs around the country were ready. And we want to talk about that a little bit. I want to give you a history of commissions in real estate and how they used to be set up, and kind of talk about what's going to happen moving forward. So first and foremost, the way the current settlement is written, which is funny because it's not even approved yet by the DOJ. Mm-hmm. So we're implementing a system that might change in a couple of months because they're not expecting a DOJ approval of the settlement until November. And it sounds like if you read, actually it looks like if you read, it sounds like if you listen, but it looks like if you read, the DOJ is not happy with this settlement. They want more blood. They want more flesh. Let's talk about what it means today. Well, today is just everything is normal, so there's no change, there's no official change. Although we're starting to see some agents kind of modify some of the ways they co-op. But starting in August, listing brokers will no longer be able to co-op a commission to the buyer's agent, and the buyer will be directly responsible for compensating their agent. And that could be out of pocket, but under the current interpretation of the settlement, they can also request the seller to provide that through a concession. The concession offered by the seller can't be specific for the payment of a buyer's agent, but it can be assumed. And we can't advertise that the seller will co-op to a buyer's agent on any multiple listing service or any de facto multiple listing service. So there could be no website that starts up and says, we're going to share all the commission co-op numbers on our site, because then it becomes a de facto multiple listing service. Because the real purpose of the multiple listing service is not only to share information amongst the realtor community, it's literally, the MLS is the offer of compensation for bringing a buyer through a buyer's agent. That's the purpose of the MLS. Mm-hmm. And when cooperative compensation goes away, you almost question, well, what's the purpose of the MLS at that point? I think they're going to have to pivot and adapt if this thing goes forward and stays. But we see a lot of problems already starting to happen. We're seeing buyers who are choosing not to look at listings that aren't offering buyers compensation because they don't want to come out of pocket to pay their own agent.
Or because they can't.
Or because they can't.
Right.
They're already stretched as thin as they can go.
I think down payment and closing costs, and now you're adding to that. Could be potentially a lot of extra out of pocket.
Sly, let's talk about closing costs for a little bit, because you're kind of the pro, because you see, you see the closing disclosures, you see all those numbers. Fill in the audience with, what do closing costs look like on a traditional deal?
Traditional deal in Illinois, Lake County, with title insurance, attorney fees, without prepaids. We'll go over that too. Without prepaids, I mean, anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 is realistically what we're used to seeing. between just the standard transaction costs. Now, prepaids are separate from that. So prepaids are your 1 year of insurance you have to pay up front, your escrow account cushion, and the prorations that we have to collect to ensure that we have enough money to pay your taxes and insurance when they become due. Those are all extra, so that depends on when in the year you close. Now, keep in mind, Illinois is a state where taxes are paid in arrears, so you get a credit at the closing, but up front, we don't count that credit towards your assets. So you have to qualify. So besides the $5,000 to $7,000 in actual closing costs that we're used to, and that's without you buying down your rate. If you pay a point or two to buy down your rate, that's extra.
To another $3,000 or $5,000.
Yeah, easily, depending on your loan amount, right? So you could be talking easily $10,000, $12,000 in closing costs if you're paying points, plus your year of insurance up front. So that's a lot of money, and then on top of that, add commissions. Now that could be kind of scary for first-time home buyers that are on the fringe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were wanting to say something. That's I thought
When
the
do I
glance
never
was.
not want to say something?
I know, right? So we're talking about if there's a buyer who wants to buy a house without PMI, he's looking for, and that's PMI is primary mortgage insurance, and he's looking at 20% down. So if he's looking at a $400,000 house, he's looking at $80,000 down payment. He's looking at between $5,000 and $10,000 of closing costs. And now there's the question of, now he has to direct pay out of his pocket his real estate, his buying representative. And a $400,000 house, I mean, that could be anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000. So this person who was thinking they're going to get into a house now is actually going to have over $100,000 on hand to be able to do that.
Or grossly adjust their budget.
Bring it down, get less house. Or he can choose to go unrepresented. He can go directly to the seller. He can go to the listing agent, in which point he won't have any representation, or at best he'll have dual representation. But if there's no offer of buyer's compensation, the listing broker has to be willing to take on the dual representation and represent the buyer for free, literally for free.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's problematic.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, how many people do you expect to do their jobs without compensation?
Right.
I can think of a total of none.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Well, we do this for no compensation.
This is fun, though.
This is fun. That's our
This is
compensation.
personal compensation.
Right.
Right. So I want to talk a little bit about the history of commissions and how it works. Back in the olden days, let's say way back, you wanted to sell your house, you'd contact a listing office or listing broker. Actually, back then, the broker was the only person of importance in the entire brokerage. Everyone else was just an agent to the broker. You all know that. And you would go to that brokerage, they would take your listing, and then his agents would find a buyer. So, let's say, I'm throwing this out there for argument's sake. Let's say he charged you 7% to sell your house. He would go, and then he would get your listing, he'd market, he'd promote it, and then his agents would go out there and they would find buyers. And they would bring the buyers, and then all that money would stay within the office. And that listing broker kind of, paid his agents accordingly with
They worked
whoever.
it out internally?
Correct. Then we got into the multiple listing service where they said, hey, if only my agents, let's say I have an office with 10 agents, if only my agents are the ones trying to secure a buyer, well, we're leaving millions of people out of the mix who could be potential buyers, which could benefit the seller.
Yeah.
So they developed the multiple listing service, and they said, what we're going to do, instead of just keeping these listings in-house and keeping them in our pockets, we're going to create a multiple listing service, and instead of having 10 agents trying to procure a buyer, we're going to have 55,000 agents in Illinois, all trying to secure a buyer for that seller. So now we can present that property to 55,000 agents who are out there, and they're pounding the pavement trying to find buyers, and they're bringing those buyers. Why? Because we're offering a generous percentage of what we charged the seller. And we offer that to them. And then they bring the buyer, and that benefits, number one, the buyers, because now they have access to way more properties. And it benefits the seller because the seller now has 55,000 agents worth of buyers coming in and looking at their homes, which could lead to them getting more for their asset. Now, when they first created the MLS, the problem was because the seller paid the listing agent and the listing agent paid the buying agent, that was called subagency. The buyer's agents were technically fiduciary responsibility to the seller, not the buyer. So the buyer had no representation. Now, Illinois and many other states passed something called designated agency, where the buyer is the exclusive representative for the buyer, and the listing agent is the exclusive representative for the seller. Now, back in the day, if I listed a home and someone on the MLS brought a buyer, I would give them part of my commission and compensate them. The seller didn't pay them directly. I paid them directly.
Right.
So my office would write the check to the buying office. Now what they're doing is they're saying, well, they don't want sellers paying the buyer's agents at all because that doesn't give the buyers a chance to negotiate a fee for their buyer agency. So if the seller doesn't offer cooperative compensation to the buyer, what are we going to see? Well, there could be buyers who don't want to pay their buyer's agents out of pockets, who don't want to see houses, right? So that could lead to less people viewing the home.
Yeah.
Now, in hot markets, it's going to be interesting because I think hot markets are going to be different than cool markets. Cool markets, people will be throwing like, hey, here's a car, bring your buyers.
Please bring a buyer.
But in hot markets, different, because, because there's really no inventory.
Right.
But now the DOJ doesn't want the buyer's agency paid for. In the past, the buyer didn't even really know that was going on behind the scenes, but their agent was compensated through the commission paid to the listing brokerage who shared that with the buying brokerage, and the buyer got representation out of that.
Yeah.
So now they make this argument that as part of this lawsuit, they're saying, well, the buyer was always paying the commission. They just didn't know they were paying the commission. But I find it hard to believe that anyone didn't know that their agent was being compensated for spending 6 months, 8 hours a weekend looking at 27 homes. I kind of think they all knew their agent was being compensated.
Yeah. At least in the back of their mind, even if they weren't actively thinking about it.
And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but most of the time it's on the closing disclosure at closing that they're signing.
It's on every settlement statement.
That, so it's like.
So to add a little bit of perspective on that, though, because I was a relatively young home buyer the first time I bought a home, and definitely completely inexperienced. This is long before I ever worked in real estate. We did not have an agent who necessarily sat down and explained to us any of that. So we actually never thought about how that agent got paid. It didn't even cross our mind, and not because
pennies from heaven,
and not because we didn't care about the agent, but because it never came up in conversation. And as the buyer, you're thinking about how are you going to pay for. I mentioned in the past we had to do multiple inspections on different homes because they just weren't working out. So we're trying to shell out cash for that. We're making sure we've got our earnest money where it needs to go, making sure we're getting everything packed up and moving. Right? We were preoccupied, we were busy, and we were focused on our own finances. So it really never crossed our mind to even stop and think and ask how does my agent get paid? So we truly had no idea. And not that we felt bamboozled or anything by that, it never crossed our mind.
So we're gonna, when we first make the change in August, what's gonna happen is that the people selling the houses are gonna have options. And there are no standards, right? So you might talk to 5 different brokers and they might have 5 different strategies about how it's going to go. And it could be anything from offering concessions. It could be, I'm not even sure all the different possibilities, but I think we're going to see some creative people try to make something new out of this. I'm a little bit scared because I think we're going to go through this transition where what makes real estate work right now is we know how it works. There's not a lot of mystery. It's all transparent. It's all up front. It's all on the closing disclosure. You can't hide anything from anyone in this business because everything is reviewed by attorneys, the title companies, our brokers, everything. And now we're going to be going into situations where we don't know. We don't know what the expectations are. So it's going to be very kind of, I think, volatile and interesting in the beginning. What about you, Ashley? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah. So my first thoughts are, those buyers that, like we talked about, who don't have a lot of money coming up front. I primarily work in Zion, Winthrop Harbor, Beach Park
Gosh.
area.
Low income.
Yeah.
And VA and FHA buyers. So my conversations with my clients are, here's the deal. You are going to be, we have to talk about this commission. And it's always been something that I have had a conversation about because people have asked, how do you get paid?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the conversation was, just what you had said, the listing broker pays me out of the commission that they get paid. Now it's going to look a little bit different. And it is interesting how it's going to work out. I think while we're working this out, it's going to scare away a lot of those low income, FHA, VA buyers. And I'm kind of interested on your point, Sly, on how that looks. But yeah, I mean, this is going to get very messy in the beginning before we figure it out. So I'll be here.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny we're talking about this on our Freedom Show. It's like here we got government overreach telling people how they can sell their house.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit ironic. But what is interesting, there's at least 2 MLSs now who are pushing back and saying the DOJ cannot tell sellers that they are not allowed to offer cooperating compensation because that's a freedom of speech issue.
Ooh, Freedom Team.
So that's interesting. 2 small, they're not, the MLS PIN is a large MLS. It's up in the New England. But compared to the whole National Association of Realtors, which is huge, you would think we would oppose that argument.
Yeah, one of the things that I don't see how on earth this is going to all play out is right now, what you're going to get paid, right? It's listed what your broker's co-op is going to be. Who's to say that if that agent that, from town that you don't like or whatever, calls and says, hey, I have a buyer, are you offering? You could tell them something different than you tell somebody else, so they could leave a little bit of room for
that has been my point.
Discrimination.
That's been
right?
my point this whole time. Absolutely.
The DOJ doesn't like that.
100%.
There's no way.
I completely agree with that.
Christin, what if we started saying we're going to pay women less? How would that work?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't go well. I don't recommend doing that.
And right now, that's
or if women said we're going to pay men less,
right?
Or anyone said we don't like that group.
Or the agent picks up on an accent over the phone and just decides that they could probably save a couple of bucks for their client. Like there's absolutely room for that. And even if it's not happening, now there's room to call that to question.
So
because the transparency is gone.
Right.
It's no longer out there.
Yeah,
exactly.
The Department of Justice is all about equality, no discrimination, no possible chance for discrimination. Even in my world, like that's something that's huge that they beat into us, which they should. Everybody should be treated equally. I think that's going to be something that has to be addressed.
Now,
there's no way you could just not tell everybody this is what it is.
In the interest of having a full, transparent conversation, though, so Sly, you touched on how in the past you knew up front what you were getting paid. That's a little bit part of what got us into this mess, though, right? Because up front, agents knew what they were going to be offering and then weren't showing certain homes based on what they were offering to pay, correct?
Yeah, I think there
that's
are
one of
some
my most basic understandings of
yeah.
what was the kind of catalyst of like the issue growing.
Even though you're not supposed to.
Some buyers felt steered towards properties that were offering the full commission. However, keep in mind, there's also some buyers who intentionally asked to not see properties that were offering less commission because some of the buyer brokerage agreements required if it wasn't offering at least this much, then the buyer had to come out of pocket for more. Yeah. So some of those places. Now, our MLS is not like that because you have never been able to search by commission.
Yeah.
So you can't just say, I'm only going to search for things offering, 42% commission. That's obviously a ridiculous commission. Yeah. I'm just trying not to say anything that sounds like a standard.
Because there is no standard.
Yeah. Correct.
Let me ask you a question, though, because I work with a lot of agents, and, this has obviously come up numerous times. And, my conversations have been at first, yes, it was very scary. What's going to happen? How's it going to happen? But the more we get into this, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are states that have been doing it this way for some time now.
That's what I've been gathering from the different groups that I'm in, that I follow.
Washington State, this happened. They did this a couple of years ago. And if you talk to an agent in Washington, yes, there are extra conversations that have to be had.
Sure.
There are extra disclosures that have to be signed. But in essence, if I'm selling my house, I know probably I'm going to have to compensate
Yeah.
people for that service.
100%.
And, if I'm not willing to do that, it might be more difficult for me to sell my house. Am I wrong on that, or is that...
So the settlement what you're talking about matches what the settlement currently is. Yes. And Washington's been doing it. There's some other locations that have been doing it, and they said it's just business as usual.
Yeah.
If the DOJ has their way and they decouple sellers and buyers agents,
Okay.
you won't even be able to offer a concession to cover it.
Period. Wow.
They want to decouple commissions between listers and buyers.
Yeah. Well, I think in the name of affordable housing, that's impossible.
Yeah, think about that.
That's impossible to do it that way because, like most buyers you're going to be cutting out are the buyers that don't have the extra money to come up with.
Now look at big organizations like even the VA. So the VA, buyers used to not be able to add buyer brokerage costs into their loan. They couldn't do it.
Correct.
But the VA said, hey, this is not good. This is going to hurt our veterans.
Right.
So they quickly, how often does a government agency move within 2 months?
It's temporary, the guidance.
Yeah.
Is it temporary?
I just looked it up. It's temporary,
Okay,
so there's
but
still room to...
They probably want to see where it falls, like
Correct.
where the dust
Correct.
settles.
Yeah.
But they moved mountains to make a quick change to say, we don't want our veterans hurt by having to come out of pocket to pay, so we're going to allow them to finance that.
Right.
Now, are non-VA loan buyers allowed to finance that as well in the event that they now are responsible for covering their agent's commission?
They're allowed to come up with it out of pocket as part of their closing costs, but it's not necessarily
rolled
financing
into their
it
loan.
because the loan to values you still have to hit the 3% down for
Yeah.
conventional 3.5. So you can come up with it out of pocket or get a credit for it, but it's
Sure.
not necessarily financed.
And some lenders, Christin, will cap your allowable seller contribution at 3%. Some will do 6%. Most FHA most FHA is
So FHA 6%
And then
standard, VA's 4% standard, conventionals capped at 3% standard.
okay.
As a closing cost credit.
And then if you think about when we talked about $10,000 closing costs, so if you need those closing cost credits to cover, they're getting eaten up in just
Right.
just the actual closing costs before you think about your representation.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, this has been a lively one. Welcome to our Freedom Show on the eve of my favorite holiday, Independence Day. And we're going to celebrate with some freedom music. Come on back.
Feel free. I feel free. I feel free.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity National Title has offices located all throughout Lake and McHenry counties.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder & Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder & Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder & Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
It's the best station on the radio.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Sly Marinca Team at Cross Country Mortgage, specializing in a range of mortgage solutions tailored to meet the needs of homebuyers and homeowners. With a focus on delivering efficient and knowledgeable service, the Sly Marinca Team is dedicated to facilitating a smooth mortgage process. Their office is located at 532 Lake Street, Suite A in Antioch, Illinois. They can also be reached at sly@ccm.com or by phone at 847-722-1775.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County
Unlocking Lake County.
with Dick Barr. 98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Dick Barr Group at Village Realty, offering both residential and commercial real estate services across northeastern Illinois. Find us at our office located at 1915 East Grand Avenue in Lindenhurst, or visit us online at www.dickbarr.com. For a personal real estate experience, they can also be reached at 847-579-9736. At the Dick Barr Group, your property goals are their mission.
This is Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity National Title has offices located all throughout Lake and McHenry counties.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Your favorite show right here on 98.3 FM.
98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder & Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder & Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder & Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder & Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder & Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder & Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Sly Marinca Team at Cross Country Mortgage, specializing in a range of mortgage solutions tailored to meet the needs of homebuyers and homeowners. With a focus on delivering efficient and knowledgeable service, the Sly Marinca Team is dedicated to facilitating a smooth mortgage process. Their office is located at 532 Lake Street, Suite A in Antioch, Illinois. They can also be reached at sly@ccm.com or by phone at 847-722-1775.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
It's the best station on the radio.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Dick Barr Group at Village Realty, offering both residential and commercial real estate services across northeastern Illinois. Find us at our office located at 1915 East Grand Avenue in Lindenhurst, or visit us online at www.dickbarr.com. For a personal real estate experience, they can also be reached at 847-579-9736. At the Dick Barr Group, your property goals are their mission.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County
Unlocking Lake County
with Dick Barr. 98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity National Title has offices located all throughout Lake and McHenry counties.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder and Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder and Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder and Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
It's the best station on the radio.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Sly Marinca Team at Cross Country Mortgage, specializing in a range of mortgage solutions tailored to meet the needs of homebuyers and homeowners. With a focus on delivering efficient and knowledgeable service, the Sly Marinca Team is dedicated to facilitating a smooth mortgage process. Their office is located at 532 Lake Street, Suite A in Antioch, Illinois. They can also be reached at sly@ccm.com or by phone at 847-722-1775.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County
Unlocking Lake County
with Dick Barr. 98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Dick Barr Group at Village Realty, offering both residential and commercial real estate services.
Welcome back to Unlocking Lake County with your host, Dick Barr.
And welcome back. This is your host, Dick Barr. We're here with Unlocking Lake County, here with Christin Kaufman.
Hi, friends. Welcome back.
Sly Marinca.
Hello, hello.
And our special guest, Ashley Jensen.
Hey.
Christin, but before the break, we were talking about the new NAR settlement, and you brought up a good point that we should probably let people know, because so they should know what to expect starting next month if they're buying. So go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the changes that I think is going to be for the better across the board, even if it's a little bit inconvenient at first to get used to it. One of the major changes that the buyers will see right away is that buyer agents will now be required to have buyer's agency agreements set up with their clients before we can even show you a house. We cannot unlock a door until we have a buyer's agency agreement set up in advance so that the buyers are aware of and have agreed to a commission before entering a home so that everyone's on the same page. I think that's going to be positive for a couple of reasons. Do we have time for me to get into them, or should we save that for another day?
No, give me brief bullet points, and then if there's anything super interesting, we might dive deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. Bullet points, one of the things that I think it will be good for is just simply safety. As a female in this business, our jobs require us to meet strangers at second locations. I think that having a system in place where we're meeting at our office to go over a contract first and going to a second location after that, I think is at least just another step for safety for everyone involved. Everyone kind of gets a chance to meet each other. Two, I'm really big on transparency. That's how I run business. I always have these conversations before showing houses to people, but I think it'll be a good practice for everyone to get into. That way everyone knows what they're getting into upon walking into a house. And I forgot what the third point I was going to make was as I was talking.
Well, that's okay. But those are great points. Those 2 points alone are great points. Obviously, I don't have that same intimidation factor as a male, right? So I don't have that safety fear. But I think we'll start seeing a lot more. Never mind. But in 20 years I've been doing this, I've never done a buyer agency agreement, and maybe I should have.
No, I do for every single one.
And that's great. And I've never done it because I've never wanted someone to feel that they have to read, understand, and sign a contract before they even look at houses. I was never even one to make people get pre-approved before I'll meet with them.
Sure.
Because for me I
don't require that either for the first several showings.
Yeah, it's
I
like,
recommend it.
Yeah.
Your first taste is free, and then if we're going to keep looking at homes, then we need to know that there's full qualifications.
Yeah.
But we're never making an offer unless we know there's pre-approval.
Of course.
Yeah, by all means. I saw you making a face there, Sly. Tell us what's that about?
Oh, the horror stories I've heard with people that we're good to go. We know we qualify. We know this. And in fact, just recently I had one where an agent had shown this guy 30, 40 houses. The guy's
Wait, is that me?
No,
just kidding.
The
That
guy's
happened
loaded.
to me.
The guy's, when he talks a talk and he knew everything, and he is, but he became self-employed last year. His job switched from W-2 to 1099.
Oh.
And so after showing him multiple $1 million homes over a long stretch of time, it was discovered that he has to wait.
$1 million homes, I would definitely ask for proof of funds or approval because
the guy shows up in a $50,000, $60,000 Mercedes, whatever, $100,000. Yeah, right. Maybe 10 years ago.
You mean
right?
Toyota?
But
Toyota?
He's got a big down payment, so it was it seemed like it was legit. But then he didn't realize that was and then he calls me and he didn't realize that. Oh crap! You're 1099 now. You do not qualify because you have to have 2 years tax returns. He had no idea. And so,
you know
just
why
the horror
he had
stories.
no idea? Because he didn't call a lender first.
Yes. But do it how you've always done it. Obviously, you're all successful here and you do a great job for your clients. So do it how you've always done it. Don't take it from me.
But that's just it, though, is I think having a little bit of adaptability with all of this is really going to help agents carry through. I know I'm kind of in the minority in this, but I'm kind of optimistic about how it's just going to continue to help shape the industry and being more and more transparent. Having not been in it quite as long as obviously you guys, I went into it knowing that there's a certain reputation that we have in our career, right? And I think that stuff like this, as long as it's implemented well, can help us sort of defend ourselves when it comes to those conversations about our reputations and being able to be trustworthy.
Great point. Let's get started with Sly.
Here is the Mortgage Minute with Sly Marinca and Cross Country Mortgage on Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dick. So this week's Mortgage Minute, we talk about every week of kind of what we're seeing in the market and seeing what's out there. So currently, the 30-year fixed average interest rate is 7.13% across the country. The last time I was here, it was a little bit lower than that. It was closer. It was in the high sixes, right? So, what the heck is going on? And it's just more of the same. It's just a teeter-totter. We're seeing just these wild swings in the, the current 10-year Treasury yield is at 4.35. The last time we were here, it was in the low. It's like 4.19. So, we're just seeing things kind of up and down. The markets are really, really, really hoping and, expecting rates to be cut. We're starting to see, as we've talked about, the jobs numbers keep getting adjusted lower. In fact, just today, ADP data showed weaker payroll growth than expected in June. That's something that typically would cause bonds to rally and rates to come down. But just yesterday, the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, said that the Fed is actually looking for more inflation progress on inflation before they actually start cutting rates. So it's a constant battle of, are rates coming down? Are they not? When is
it's like
the
a
Fed
moving target.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, they're really trying to target to the inflation to that 2% annualized rate, and it is slowly coming down. But then, there's days where the markets are saying, all right, well, he just told us he's not ready to do it yet. Mm-hmm. So then the rates kind of creep back up. So generally, though, over the last 30 days, we've been around, around the 7, right around 7.1, 7.2, as low as 6.9%, kind of as an average is what we've seen. So not a ton of movement, but, we'll just keep an eye on it and see how things progress. And, the more progress we see on inflation, the more likely it is for rates to come down. And at that time, that's when I do think we're going to see a lot of buyers come to market.
Some room for some opportunity.
Again, yeah, that golden handcuff we've just been talking about, where so many people are married to their 3% mortgage. They don't want to leave the house they hate or the neighborhood or yeah, because, who wants to give up 3% when, it's 7 right now. So, so that's kind of where we're still at. So yeah, and I did want to talk about that. So like, there's some hope. I see some hope on the horizon for, as Dick mentioned, there are more, there's more inventory out there. There's more listings. We still have a very low month supply, but more houses have been coming on the market, and that is opportunity for maybe some of these buyers that, are pre-approved for FHA or for VA, to get back out there. Don't lose hope. You're going to get a house. It's just, you got to be patient. And, I've been working with, some buyers for over a year that are finally, getting offers accepted. And like I said, this last couple of weeks, we've seen FHA offers get accepted. We've seen VA offers get accepted, and even closing cost credits. So, that's really promising for those buyers that aren't cash or that don't have 50% to put down or whatever. And that's kind of those offers that have been getting accepted. So there's hope on the horizon.
Right.
And that's the thing I wanted to talk about too, is the the common misconception about, not accepting an FHA offer or a VA offer, because it's so much, harder to get those approved than it is to get a conventional loan approved or whatever. And it's just not true. I think, many years ago, when I first started my career, FHA appraisals and VA appraisals were definitely a lot stricter. They cared about cosmetics, little things had to be repaired. So, at that time, yeah, it was something that you accepting a conventional offer as a seller versus an FHA offer, you're a lot less likely to have to do work, right? And you're just going to sell your house because the appraiser isn't going to nitpick every little thing that's in the house. Well, that went away a long time ago. Years and years ago, that went away, and it's not cosmetics. But some agents still just insist on, nope, we only want conventional offers. Yes, there are some differences still, particularly with FHA peeling paint. That's the biggest one. If you have an older home and there's some wood trim that's missing some paint, an FHA appraiser is going to require that to be scraped and painted, whereas on a conventional financing, they're not. So yes, there are still some differences, but it's just not what it used to be. And, major stuff, it's going to, like we've seen, contracts come in where there's no floor coverings. That's a conventional thing to it. You have to have floor coverings. You have to have a working kitchen. You have to have running water. I mean, those are all, major things that it doesn't matter if it's conventional or FHA, they're going to have to be corrected. Bad roof. We have one going right now where the appraiser can clearly see from the street that shingles are missing. That's an FHA or a conventional thing. And this is a conventional loan that we're doing, and they're still having to have somebody get up on the roof and A, replace the shingles that are missing, B, certify that it's good for a certain period of time. So
I've never seen a conventional appraiser call out like roofing issues.
Yeah, they do. Absolutely. Anything safety, security, soundness of the house. It's rare, but in this case, it just so happened that a huge windstorm came through a couple of days before the appraiser got out there, and the house is vacant. Nobody lives there. And I mean, it's clear as day from the street. You could see that shingles are missing. And we had another one recently, that same exact thing happened. And, they had to get a drone and fly it above the house and show that, that everything that was, all the shingles that were missing were fixed, and we were able to get it closed. But I guess my point is, it's not as different as some agents make it out to be.
I agree. That's my experience. It's definitely gotten better.
Yeah.
We used to see even lower appraisal amounts and also picking out different issues on FHA and VA. That's gotten much better.
Much better.
And the VA especially has gotten a lot better, especially in the past 3 years when it's becoming harder and harder to buy a house. It seems the VA appraisers are starting to look, give more opportunity for the benefit of the doubt.
I used to cringe when there's a particular VA appraiser that is out of Rockford that would come to our area, and he hated Lake County for some reason. and because on VA, they have their own appraisers. It's not even our appraisers. They have their own. And, one appraiser would cover a 90 square mile, area. And it's like, dude, like you're kind of like out of your, element here. And we had nothing but problems. And there's also one in Wisconsin that I'm thinking of too, that same thing where it's like they're always nitpicking every little thing. But it's gotten so much better over the years. And I don't know, maybe people retired or, got out of the business or what. But
also the lenders are in business to lend money. Yeah. If all of the deals are dying for what becomes non-consequential issues,
right,
the lender's going to push back and say, wait a second,
right,
is this really a showstopper? And we have to evaluate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we regularly have what's called a reconsideration of value. If we don't agree with the value, if an appraisal comes in low, we have the ability to provide information with the customer, with our clients are, we have their best interest and we have a fiduciary responsibility to them. So we do what they want. But if we have an appraisal that comes in low and is unfair, we can provide additional information, provide additional comps, and see if if the appraiser is willing to review. Well, they have to review them. Well, if they're willing to possibly change the value based on information they might not have had, things like that all the time. But in general, it's like you said, it's not as bad as it used to be. I mean, they're pretty solid now. They understand that. I mean, this market's crazy hot. If you have 10 people offering on the same house, there's got to be, you got to understand that. You got to, kind of understand that that's a very desirable property and the value should reflect that.
Yeah.
I would say I only have one specific issue for both FHA and VA. As someone who 90% of my business is on the listing side, and I got to think about protecting my seller at the most possible way. And there's a hierarchy of what the favorables are, right? So it's cash, conventional, FHA, VA together, and then all the other alternative loans. My big sticking point is that on both FHA and VA, the buyer cannot be compelled to an appraisal gap guarantee.
Yeah.
So on a conventional, they can. It can become part of the contract. Now, a buyer of FHA and VA can offer an appraisal gap guarantee, but they can't be contractually bound to it.
Right.
And that's my only concern I'd like to see go away.
Yeah, because they're signing the mandatory clause that if it doesn't appraise, you have an automatic out. The seller has to sign it. All the agents have to sign it. So, yeah, I mean, that is, I totally agree that in this market, and even me as a seller, listen, I do loans for a living. I've done it for 20 plus years. If I'm selling my house, cash is king, conventional, FHA, VA, but I'm not putting as much weight on it as I think a lot of other people are.
It's not a $5,000 difference like at one point it might have been. You might accept a $5,000 less conventional versus FHA, VA because of that. And you might accept it even $5,000 or $10,000 on a cash. But we're seeing, especially on conventional and cash, I don't think there's a dollar amount unless you're really worried about the appraisal.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a dollar amount that justifies the difference of taking I'll take $5,000 less cash versus, because the conventional loan, especially the way you guys underwrite the loans today, they're pretty rock solid. We haven't seen many fail in a long time.
Right.
Well, at least not in large numbers, except your guy who, I guess he never filed a loan application.
Yeah. By the time he wanted to put an offer in and he filed a loan application, his realtor had already showed him 30 plus houses.
Sly, you actually have a listener question.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. So from Sarah Johnson, she said, I'm in the process of selling my house and searching for a new home at the same time. Do I have any other financing options outside of having to do a home sale contingency so I can better my chances of letting my offer stand out? Great question.
Absolutely. And yes, you typically do. However, if your house is already listed, you may be limited. So you could do what's called a bridge loan. A bridge loan is where you are basically taking equity out of your home and using that to purchase the next one before it sells. They are expensive to do, and it's kind of hard to qualify for. So you have to basically be able to carry your current mortgage plus a new mortgage plus the bridge loan. If the house isn't listed yet, you could open what's called the home equity line of credit, where again you're tapping into your home equity early, using that as your down payment.
Again, not listed yet.
Not listed yet. You have to qualify for all of this. So that's the whole trick. You have to be able to qualify based on your debt to income ratios and credit, and everything else to carry your current debt plus the new debt. So hard to qualify for, but yes, we do them all the time. The other option, which is the one that I would probably lean towards if I was doing it, is if you can come up with a down payment, You qualify for all your debt. You could come up with, on a conventional loan, it's as little as 5% down. You could do 10% down out of pocket. Lenders are allowing what's called recasting now. So you could purchase your home with 5% down, not contingent upon your home sale, provided you qualify. And then after you move in, you sell your house. You take the proceeds that you would have normally, used as your down payment, and you can pay down your current loan and recast your payments over the remaining term without refinancing. So it's a way to lower your payment without having to refinance.
Yeah.
So yes, there are options. It's hard to qualify for, but yeah, I mean, right now, home sale contingencies, you guys know it's
they're tough. Yeah,
it's
Sarah,
tough.
for what it's worth, that text that I mentioned earlier, it included a home sale contingency. You're not alone in that.
Yeah. So there are some ways to get around it if you qualify. Absolutely talk to a good local lender that can kind of walk you through those options and see what works best.
Okay, awesome. Well, I think that was a great bit. We'll be right back on our Freedom episode of Unlocking Lake County. Thanks for joining us.
Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr will return in just a few moments after these important messages. Don't touch that dial.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity National Title has offices located all throughout Lake and McHenry counties.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder & Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder & Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder & Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
It's the best station on the radio.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Sly Marinca Team at Cross Country Mortgage, specializing in a range of mortgage solutions tailored to meet the needs of homebuyers and homeowners. With a focus on delivering efficient and knowledgeable service, the Sly Marinca Team is dedicated to facilitating a smooth mortgage process. Their office is located at 532 Lake Street, Suite A in Antioch, Illinois. They can also be reached at sly@ccm.com or by phone at 847-722-1775.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County.
Unlocking Lake County
with Dick Barr. 98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Dick Barr Group at Village Realty, offering both residential and commercial real estate services across northeastern Illinois. Find us at our office located at 1915 East Grand Avenue in Lindenhurst, or visit us online at www.dickbarr.com. For a personal real estate experience, they can also be reached at 847-579-9736. With the Dick Barr Group, your property goals are their mission.
This is Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity National Title has offices located all throughout Lake and McHenry counties.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Your favorite show right here on 98.3 FM.
98.3 The Life. 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 98.3 The Life.
Support
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder & Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder & Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder & Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder & Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder & Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder & Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Sly Marinca Team at Cross Country Mortgage, specializing in a range of mortgage solutions tailored to meet the needs of homebuyers and homeowners. With a focus on delivering efficient and knowledgeable service, the Sly Marinca Team is dedicated to facilitating a smooth mortgage process. Their office is located at 532 Lake Street, Suite A in Antioch, Illinois. They can also be reached at sly@ccm.com or by phone at 847-722-1775.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
It's the best station on the radio.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Dick Barr Group at Village Realty, offering both residential and commercial real estate services across northeastern Illinois. Find us at our office located at 1915 East Grand Avenue in Lindenhurst, or visit us online at www.dickbarr.com. For a personal real estate experience, they can also be reached at 847-579-9736. At the Dick Barr Group, your property goals are their mission.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County.
Unlocking Lake County
with Dick Barr. 98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity National Title has offices located all throughout Lake and McHenry counties.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
You guys have a great radio station. You just play the best music.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder & Shotland Law Firm, offering legal services across various areas including criminal defense, real estate, family law, and more. Harder & Shotland is committed to addressing the legal needs of individuals and businesses with a focus on thorough and knowledgeable representation. Information on Harder & Shotland Law Firm can be found at hardershotland.com or by visiting their office at 625 West Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach. They can also be reached at 847-546-0022.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Unlocking Lake County.
98.3 The Life.
It's the best station on the radio.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Sly Marinca Team at Cross Country Mortgage, specializing in a range of mortgage solutions tailored to meet the needs of homebuyers and homeowners. With a focus on delivering efficient and knowledgeable service, the Sly Marinca Team is dedicated to facilitating a smooth mortgage process. Their office is located at 532 Lake Street, Suite A in Antioch, Illinois. They can also be reached at sly@ccm.com or by phone at 847-722-1775.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County.
Unlocking Lake County
with Dick Barr. 98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County comes from the Dick Barr Group at Village Realty, offering both residential and commercial real estate services across northeastern Illinois. Find us at our office located at 1915 East Grand Avenue in Lindenhurst, or visit us online at www.dickbarr.com. For a personal real estate experience, they can also be reached at 847-579-9736. At the Dick Barr Group, your property goals are their mission.
This is Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Fidelity National Title Insurance Company, offering title insurance and real estate services. With origins tracing back over 150 years, Fidelity National Title facilitates secure closing processes for buyers, sellers, and real estate professionals. Anyone looking for more information can find them on the web at www.fntic.com. Fidelity National Title has offices located all throughout Lake and McHenry counties.
You're listening to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Your favorite show right here on 98.3 FM.
98.3 The Life.
Support for Unlocking Lake County is provided by Harder and
Unlocking Lake County with your host, Dick Barr.
And welcome back. This is your host, Dick Barr, here for Unlocking Lake County, here with Christin Kaufman.
Hello, hello.
Mortgage guru Sly Marinca.
Hello, everybody.
And our special guest, Illinois State Senate candidate, Ashley Jensen. Hey. Ashley, hello.
Hi.
Welcome to our show. We're glad you can join us.
Yeah.
So we're going to get right started because we're running a little bit behind on schedule, and I don't want to take away from your time. So tell us who you are, what you're running for, and then anything you want to say about yourself.
All right. Yeah, I am Ashley Jensen. I am a licensed real estate agent in Illinois and Wisconsin. And I am running for Illinois State Senate for District 31. And that spans from Zion down to parts of Waukegan, west to a sliver of Antioch, all of Round Lake Heights, all of that, part of Gurnee, Grays Lake. It's a big area.
That's a huge district.
It is a very big district, yes.
So a Senate district is basically two House districts in one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you would have, you would be the overseeing senator over two state reps.
Yes.
And who's your opponent?
Mary Edley Allen.
Okay. Yep. And what got you into politics?
Ooh. So what got me in, originally I did it's called Zion Benton Leadership Academy. The Zion Township offered it, and I did it via Zoom in 2020. And I thought, oh, this will help me in real estate. I'll learn some leadership. And afterwards, I was like, I want to get involved. How do I get involved in my community? I have 2 kids, and, you know, when you talk about it takes a village to raise your kids, I looked around, and yes, my village is my family, but it's also the people who make the laws and decide what happens when they go to school and all of those things involved. So I decided to run for Benton Township trustee. Yep. And I got elected, and so I've been doing that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then for this, I mean, to be honest, that was probably as far as I was going to go in politics. I just wasn't really into politics growing up. My parents, you know, didn't really talk about it. My in-laws are phenomenal. They're very... and they have their thumb on the politics, and my husband's grandpa was mayor of Beach Park.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So
now,
learned a lot for them.
What's interesting is that I think real estate brokers tend to make fantastic politicians because they're both people businesses, right? Mm-hmm. How long have you been in real estate?
I've been in real estate about 7 years.
Okay. So you've dealt with a lot of people.
Oh, yes.
and like Christin and I were talking about, to be a realtor or a real estate agent or broker, you have to learn how to listen, pivot, and adapt.
Yes,
And
very much.
Another big kind of job in legislation and politics. I'm assuming, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, your interest in politics is not so much the politics, but more the people and the community.
Oh, yes, absolutely. When so I was approached by the political director down at the state senate to run for this position. So nobody ran in the primaries for this spot for the Republican Party.
Right.
And so they went out and gathered up some people, and I was one of those names in the database. And it was funny because I got reached out through my Facebook, my real estate Facebook, and they said, "Hey, you're a real estate agent. You're already in elected office. We think you'd be great for this." And at first I thought it was a scam. I was thinking like,
Understandable.
I don't think you have the right person. I have no money for this. Like, what are you talking about? But I took the meeting. And after the meeting, I had called, he had suggested, call this lady. Her name is Erica Harris. She's a senator downstate. Called her, and I was like, hey, what does this entail? What does campaigning, for one, entail? Two, what does it mean to be a senator? And she laid it out, and I felt very comfortable. I thought, there's no way I can be a senator. I don't have a college degree. And she was like, you have to have a heart for the community. I was like, all right, good. That's what I got. I have that. I really do love my community and being involved. I served on the Winthrop Harbor Rec board as well for a while.
I like your origin story too. It's very interesting that the township put out a leadership program, and you signed up for it. I love those types of things, and they're out there. A lot of communities do kind of civilian training academies for the police departments. They do different like leadership programs to teach the community how to become better stewards of their own government.
Yeah.
And Christin, you're always talking about how do I get involved? How do I get involved?
I am, absolutely. Even when I was going to CLC years ago, they had some kind of, I don't remember the exact name of the program, but it was like a leadership program that I had joined, and we had done like a weekend retreat. And it's contagious when you start getting involved in that stuff and realize like, I can contribute. Okay, it's not just something the grown-ups do. Like that's me now. I can do that. It's a really cool realization, especially if you're someone who finds yourself sort of drawn towards that stuff. And Ashley, you had mentioned how you really only ever planned on doing trustee work, and then this kind of found you. And I find that unless you're someone who's like born and bred into a politics family and just like knows you have big goals, I find that that's the same story that you hear from a lot of politicians who kind of ended up working their way up, right? Where they really only wanted to do like one thing to kind of get involved and make a little difference. And then that feeling of making a difference really starts to catch on, and it's a little contagious. And then you realize that like, hey, maybe I can do more. And I think it's really cool that it found you. So you are running for a state senate, correct?
Yes.
Do you mind telling our listeners what that scope of practice is? You mentioned having that question upon being approached. What does that even entail? So for anyone who doesn't know the specifics of what your scope would be if you are given the opportunity to serve, what does that entail for you?
So being a state senator, you're a legislator at the state level, and that would entail basically bringing ideas, not only mine, but listening to everybody in the community, talking with them and what's important to them, bringing those ideas to the floor, and, coming up with a bill, passing bills to have those laws enacted. So that's basically the scope.
And, generally speaking, and this is a kind of a huge misconception by a lot of people, I think. At the state level, you have all kinds of staff that does research, right? So you might talk to a constituent on one day, and he says, well, I don't think we should have bicycles on the sidewalks, and I think that should be a state law that we should get rid of it. Maybe that's their idea. So you would weigh that against what your sense is based on what you've spoken to about your community, and then you would talk to staff and say, okay, let's do some research. What are how many accidents have happened? How many deaths have happened? How many of this have happened? And they get all this research for you, and then you evaluate that research, and then you would make a decision based on that if it's something you want to work with other legislators to try to make into a law. Is that about an accurate representation?
Yeah, that's exactly. Yep.
Okay, so I want to talk, what are your big goals of wanting, because you said you want to make a difference. What needs to change? What do you think the big issues are?
Well, the biggest one being in a real estate is property taxes. I am licensed in Illinois and Wisconsin, and so many people tell me, get me out of this state. I can't afford it. I actually just had a cousin talk about how they live in Gurnee. Their taxes are on about $9,000, and to register their kids for school, public school, it's $500. They have 3 kids. That's $1,500 they're going to have to shell out for registration. And
on top of the taxes they're already paid.
On top of the taxes. And when you look at your tax bill, majority of your tax bill is going to the schools. And I mean, my kids attend, well, my son will be attending kindergarten, but my kids attend public school. And, you know, I just feel like we're paying so much, and some of the schools, kids in the high school can't even, do basic math, and we're spending millions of dollars to, make the school look pretty, which is needed in some aspects. You need to update them, but when school is there to educate, why aren't we focusing on the basics? And it's hard. There's a lack of transparency and accountability, I feel like, and that's probably the biggest thing. I do hear people say, I'm willing to pay these taxes if I see, the outcome that is needed for our students. And there's the rub, right? Because anytime there's a school tax referendum going up, you have the two camps. One camp says, whatever the school wants, we're going to give it. Mm-hmm. The other camp says, we want to know what it's being used for, and if we agree that it makes sense, we'll give it. But they demonize each other, both camps. The one side says, you hate schools. Well, no, we don't hate them at all. We just had a big library referendum here. Mm-hmm. I know. I was gonna bring that up. I mean,
oh yeah,
$36 million.
Yeah,
and
huge.
it hasn't passed twice, and they're gonna go again for it.
It hasn't passed once, and I think they've yet to decide if they're gonna get it on this ballot. I don't know what the cutoffs are and if they are doing it for it or not. Probably be not wise to do it on a presidential election year, because you'll have mass turnout, and big turnout does not go well for referendums. Yeah. So I kind of hope they do it on the presidential one. Anyway, I think in Illinois especially, and in Lake County specifically, we have an economy of scale problem. So when I hear people like you, candidates for office, talking about school, the cost of school, it's 65 to 70% of our tax bill. I think there's people who will respond to that and say, well, what's the matter? You don't like our schools? You don't think our teachers deserve salaries? And I think what I've seen when I was on the county board, I would go to D.C. every year, and I would meet with other legislators, other county representatives. And the interesting thing about Illinois, we're one of the few states where we have hundreds of school districts. We might even have 1,000, I'm not even sure, but hundreds of school districts where in other states they have countywide school districts. Mm-hmm. So you don't have, like I think in Illinois we have 26 school districts, 26 superintendents, 26 assistant superintendents, 20, and then times that by the number of schools for the number of principals and vice principals. The administration cost of our schools, on top of the exorbitant unfunded pensions that we have, I think is where we're wasting money. So it's not like you don't like schools, obviously,
right?
But you want them better funded and more accountability and transparency.
Right. I have a question for you, Dick. Do you think that any of that has anything to do with reflecting on our population, or do you think that's still imbalanced even with our population being higher than other states?
I've seen it in huge populations, huge county populations, urban county populations throughout the country.
Gotcha. So, Ashley, you want to approach lowering property taxes. That's what I'm hearing, correct?
Correct.
Do you have sort of an outline of a plan on how you plan to approach that?
Before you get into that, I'm sorry, you told me something before the show that's got me bothered. And it's about your ballot access. And that's kind of why I think it's great that you're on our Freedom Show. So talk to us about what's happening with your actually ability to be on the ballot.
Yes. So this is a huge thing. So like I mentioned before, nobody ran in the primary for this spot. And so I was slated to be the candidate. Even being slated, I still needed to get the required amount of...
Now, hold on, just so, and kind of like to Kristin's point, slated is something that we've been doing for over a century, where the parties have the option, if they didn't have someone run on the primary, they can slate, still need all the same signature requirements, but they can slate a candidate even if they didn't run in the primary.
Correct. And both parties can do this.
Right.
And so I'm the slated candidate. And I was out getting signatures, and in the middle of getting signatures, I needed 1,000 for the Senate seat, but they told me, hey, try and get 2,000 because they're going to try and knock off as
That's a
many
lot
as
of signatures.
That is a lot of signatures. I did not realize, because I got like 150 for my Benton Township, and I was like, okay, it's just that times 10. It was definitely... uphill battle, but
and just to put it in perspective, when I ran for county board, I needed 50.
Oh my gosh.
50 signatures.
Well, in the House seat needs 500, so I was like, oh my goodness, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, so in the middle of that, May, I want to say 2nd, so I was slated like early April 3rd, I want to say, and May 2nd, there was a bill. It was for child welfare. And this bill basically... This
is a legislative bill.
Yes.
in the Senate.
Yeah, working its way to be voted on. And from what I understand, a lot of it was a really good bill to help children in DCFS.
In what way? What is the intended good there?
Basically...
Hold on. I want to know... That's a long story about the child welfare bill.
Okay.
It's a long bill. That's not the point.
Got it.
The point is it's a child welfare bill that they what?
So they completely gutted it. And in that, what they did is they took out everything regarding to child welfare. They put on referendum questions for the ballot. And they changed election laws. And in that election law that they changed, they eliminated slated candidates, which was me.
So just to kind of bring that down to the 6th grade level, you had a child welfare bill.
Yep.
Regardless of what was in it, it was a bill to be debated, discussed, and maybe passed. And they gutted it, and they took out all of the language of the bill that dealt with child welfare, kept the title, Child Welfare Bill, and put in a provision that would eliminate anyone who's been slated and even got their signatures, the 1,000+ signatures, and they made that the law and passed that as law.
Yeah, and they did this within like 48 hours. I got the call, I think, like Thursday, and it was on the governor's desk by Friday afternoon, and he signed it. There was somebody downstate that actually he's running for House, and he was able to get his signatures in, and that's an incredible story. His name is Jay. And
for those who don't know, what the process is, the candidates at the beginning of the petition season, they get a book and it tells them how many signature requirements, this is what you have to do, these are the dates you can obtain them. That's already set in stone. And then this law changed the rules in the middle of the game, after the deadlines, after the signatures were already got. And they took and they destroyed a child welfare bill. This blows my mind because DCFS is in hot water in Illinois right now. They are in charge of a lot of kids. And over the past 15 years, over 150 kids in their care have died.
Wow.
And yet here we have a child welfare bill, and they play this political maneuver game to get rid of. The only reason is so they can have candidates running without opponents.
Wow.
What about ballot access? Here's a mom, community member running. She's got no money. I don't know if she'll win. That's not the point. But here's a voice to get out and talk to the people and have conversations with and hold the other candidate accountable so they don't just have to sit back and do nothing. So they actually have to get out and talk to the community. And they want you, mom of two, off the ballot.
Yeah.
It disgusts me. I'm sorry. I'm worked up, obviously.
Yeah, that's horrible.
So what happened? So where are we at now?
So it was a race to get the signatures. Well, first they asked me, do you even want to keep going? Because the likelihood is that you may not even get on the ballot. And I said, no, I'm willing to fight this. I'm willing to go back out and get the signatures that are needed. I told him, I said, if that's all you're requiring me to do right now is to go out, walk my little feet around town and get some signatures, I can do that. And we did it. We filed June 3rd and with almost 1,800 signatures.
Wow.
Yeah. So that battle was good. We made that. So then
almost double the amount you needed.
Yeah. And so the other side has an opportunity to knock off any of those signatures. They get
That's
a
called
week.
the challenge period.
Yep, challenge period. They get that for a week.
And did they challenge you?
In the middle of this, a judge, we took it down to a judge in Sangamon County, and that judge ruled this law unconstitutional. So it was basically tabled, and
so ruled the law change unconstitutional.
Yeah.
They had to go through it the way it originally was.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then get my petitions in. It went uncontested, but now it's that decision of that law saying that the law that was passed unconstitutional is now being appealed. So I'm held up in judicial stuff right now that.
So they didn't even challenge your signatures. They didn't challenge your petitions.
Nope.
They were all good. They're all right. They're all valid.
Yep.
And yet, let's appeal this.
Yep.
And then that's going to keep you from essentially raising money, campaigning, spending money on your campaign.
Yeah. So in my original conversation with the gentleman that approached me, I said, here's the thing. I'm a mom of two. My husband's blue collar, works as a print press operator. And I said, I can raise money. I raised money for cats. But I did. That's a whole nother story. But I don't have much money to put in this myself. And they said, okay, we'll be willing to help you get signs and get a website and, maybe some other literature to start you off so that way you can go out and, start campaigning, raise money and all of that stuff. So that's essentially on hold until we know if I'm really going to be moving forward. So it really has put me into this spot where, oh my gosh, what do I do?
So you're expending all this time and energy on a race you might not even be in.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And so now I do want to go back to, because if you do get on the ballot, our listeners do want to know. Christin, can you go ahead with your question again?
Sure. So I will reiterate the whole thought. So you want to approach property taxes. What is the outline of your plan to do so?
Well, my thoughts on that is accountability and transparency. There has been a lot of uproar in my community, specifically Zion Benton. And it just seems that we don't have the transparency and accountability to those that serve us and where our tax dollars are being spent. And it is really hard to even access a budget online. And so I think that's where it starts off. I wonder if there's a way to make sure that they can't, continuously get the most amount of money every single time they go to vote on our tax levies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And without at least explaining it and making sure in Wisconsin, and I don't know if this may be not the best way, but anytime they want more from their community, they have to bring it to a referendum, no matter what. Right. Here, we can vote. You get a certain amount of money you can ask for to be levied to the community. and basically that comes out in your property taxes. In Wisconsin, it's a little bit different. Not that I'm saying that we should do that here, but something to kind of consider.
You know, in the property tax system in Illinois, but I'm not telling this to anyone who doesn't already know this. We're the highest taxed county in the second highest tax state, second to only New Jersey for the highest tax state. But the total taxes, including property taxes, income taxes, grocery taxes, or sales taxes, gas taxes, is the highest, and all the other types of franchise taxes and phone taxes, internet taxes, blah blah blah. At the state level, obviously you can't make spending decisions for the local municipalities, right?
Right.
However, the state is constantly burdening the local municipalities with unfunded mandates, things they have to do, have to pay for. Schools, another one. They have to do it, they have to pay for it, but the state doesn't provide the money for them to do it. So they have no choice but to go to the public and take it. That's why Illinois is the highest tax state in the second highest tax state in the country. But that's one of the reasons Lake County is the highest taxed county in the country. And the way the state government distributes the income taxes to the local, it's called LGDF, local government distributed funds. So when we pay income taxes to the state, then the state gives some of that money back to our municipalities. And they short them on that money time and time again. So the municipalities, in order to provide the most local services, are being shorted on the money that's being paid in by us, and then we're left to have to pay the higher bill. So it's like we're double paying.
Yeah.
What else do you got, Christin?
So what I'm hearing, just to reflect it back to you to make sure that I'm hearing you correctly, what I'm hearing is part of your outline for your plan to lower the property taxes. Step one would be to just bring transparency and awareness to where the money is going. And then step two from there is TBD.
Yeah, kind of.
That's okay, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying I feel like step one needs to be approached first, and those doors need to open before I can see what that hallway is going to lead me down. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, like I said, I'm not a career politician, so I know that us in the community are tired of the property taxes, of the taxes. I mean, we're going to get hit again because the legislation just passed almost $1 billion tax hike. So we're going to continue seeing those hikes because they just passed the budget. And
yeah, and one of the things I want to point out is that I see often, this is why you need to be on the ballot, because you have to have that conversations. You're running against someone who's been a rep and a senator, and she's got experience, right? Your chances of winning in this race probably 1,000,000 to 1. Right?
Yes.
But you would be the only one talking about property taxes. And whether you have a plan or not, don't care, because we need more people from the community talking about how much it hurts, how much it's hurting our pocketbooks, how much it's hurting our communities, how our villages can't expand because they don't have the money because they're being shorted. All of these conversations need to be had. Even if you get or don't get my vote, these conversations are important because they hold the legislators and the other candidates accountable. I think it's disgusting that you're being kept off the ballot.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows that our government currently doesn't feel like the voters should have a choice. And, as a country, we're questioning democracy. And as a state, it just really feels disheartening.
Yeah, it's funny. When I was in office, I would constantly get complaints from people they said the property taxes are too high. Those are the same people who voted yes on every bond referendum they ever encountered. Why are my taxes so high? I don't know. Why did you vote for them?
Yeah. I think that's where transparency really needs to be held at every level of government because, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to really tell you what was going on, who I was voting for. Now that I've gotten involved, it makes a difference, and you really have to look at those things. So we can't just be apathetic to what's happening in our communities and who we're voting for and what is happening at the government level.
Here's what I see you as, Ashley, and forgive me, this is my impression. Here's what I see you as. I see you as a mom, a wife, a real estate broker, someone who's trying to make their community better, trying to get the voice of the people who are hurting right now out in front of as many people as possible. And if that leads you to a legislative seat, more power to you. Congratulations. But I love the fact that you're doing it, and you're doing it with no support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I got support from the big guy upstairs, I feel like, but
Yeah, that's a good answer.
The best support to have.
Yeah, no kidding. Great. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I think that pretty much sums it up.
Okay. Do you have any events coming up? Do you have? I know you don't have a website. I know you don't have signs. Do you have? Is there anything that? How about if someone wants to get a hold of you and ask you questions directly? What's your phone number?
847-903-5521. But I will add, I do have a Facebook for my Illinois Senate page, Ashley Jensen for State Senate. You can go there. I also just filled out a Ballotpedia candidate survey. So if you want more information, I don't really know where that goes, but I saw it. They reached out to me, and I was like, hey, okay, I'll fill this out. So it has a little bit more information on that too. But yeah.
Great.
Cool. Anyone else? Anything?
I agree with Dick. At the very least, no matter what ends up coming of your journey, I do think that it's important that conversations are had. And with any luck, you're right. Hopefully, shedding some light and some transparency and awareness on where the money is going does lead to some change.
Super proud of you. Go get them.
Yeah, I wish you the best of luck. Okay, we're gonna. We don't have time for a break because I really want to get into this foreclosure thing. So we're starting to see more and more data showing that some foreclosures are starting to get released, and some more are starting to get into troubling territory. So Christin and I really want to get to discussing what is foreclosure, about it, tips and tricks to stay out of it, and what to happen if you get behind. Christin, do you mind taking this?
Yeah, so the format here is you want me to go ahead and present the questions, and then we can have a conversation about the answers?
I wrote these down Q&As just as kind of a guide point, but it's just really just kind of, so for instance, on the first one, what is a foreclosure? Talk about what a foreclosure is. I know it might be obvious to most, but specifically, what is it?
I'm not sure that it is actually obvious to most. I think that people kind of equate foreclosure with eviction, and they are a little bit different. I mean, yes, the end result is still you moving out of the vacating the premise, but it is a little bit different. So a foreclosure is a legal process by which a lender takes control of a property after the homeowner fails to make mortgage payments. It allows the lender to sell the property to recover the owed amount.
So there's obviously the definition, and so what does that mean? Typically, at least here, I know, when you miss your third mortgage payment, the bank will start a list pending process, and it's a court action. And that's the beginning of the foreclosure process. And it's usually about that time the lender will stop accepting partial payments from you. So after that third month, and some lenders will be a little bit more flexible, after that third month, you pretty much have to pay all of your arrears or they won't accept anything. You have anything to add to that, Sly?
Yeah, it's that's exactly right. Once you get to that point, they will not just take $1,000 or your last payment. It's all of it plus the fees plus the interest you've accrued.
Maybe attorney fees.
Yep, it's called acceleration. So that's when that kicks in. So you got to come up with a big chunk of change at that point.
Yep. So Christin, what are the main stages of foreclosure?
So the main stages of foreclosure are going to be pre-foreclosure, and that's when you are missing payments. So the missed payments have already happened, and now the pre-foreclosure process has started. Then you're going to be in the notice of default, auction or sheriff's sale, and then post-foreclosure, property is sold or reverted to the lender.
So, let's kind of talk about that because each of those stages has different ways out.
Yeah.
So if you're just in pre-foreclosure, that's the easiest one to get out of, right? Because as long as you can put together the funds or do a forbearance or negotiate a loan modification, we can get you out. But you also have the opportunity to sell at that point until the final auction sale where you've been officially foreclosed on. You can sell it. So there's people in the past I've known who have been in foreclosure for 4 years, not making payments. 4 years.
Yeah.
And they can sell at any time as long as there's enough money to pay off the balance. As long as you're and we're in a market right now where the values are so high that unless you bought very recently or way overbought, chances of you being able to sell it and still clear enough money to pay off your balance are incredibly high.
I've seen one caveat to that, which is a client that I had met with who had bought right before the market crashed. So they bought when home sales were also pretty high. And so after doing some CMA for them and kind of trying to help them figure out what their value would be, it reflects pretty closely to what they bought it for, and they were pretty upside down on their loan. So like stuff like that can get a little bit complicated. But yeah, I agree. I had a different meeting with another client who's struggling to maintain the payments for their home, and they're trying to get ahead of it. And they were pretty satisfied with the predicted number that I gave them that they'd be able to sell it for.
And then once they're out of that, once you're out of that pre-foreclosure, now it's starting to get real. It's very important that you show up to court. And we're going to have an attorney in soon, and was going to talk about this. But it's, when you get notice of foreclosure, talk to an attorney. But make sure you show up to court. If you can't afford an attorney, at least show up to court, because they'll help you. And Lake County Judicial, the 19th Circuit, also has some foreclosure assistance where they'll provide maybe mediators or counselors to kind of help you through the process. But show up. Don't ignore it. If you ignore it, I promise it won't go away. It will get worse and worse and harder.
Absolutely.
At any point in that process, though, you could always sell it. And if you've got enough. And even if you don't have enough equity, there are short sale opportunities where we can potentially get the bank to agree to negotiate to take what the house is worth versus what the loan balance is if you're upside down. Okay, ways to avoid foreclosure, Christin.
Yeah, so homeowners can avoid foreclosure by contacting their lender. I'm looking over at you, Sly. He just says already biting us. I'm like, please contact the lender. But you can contact your lender and discuss your options, such as loan modification, refinancing, forbearance, or repayment plans. But the biggest key here is that seeking help early is so crucial, right? So if you know that you are starting to feel the temperature rising in the water that you're in, right? Don't wait until it's boiling. Talk to someone right away. Sly, I want to let you kind of chime in on that. You look like you're bursting out of your seats to talk about it.
I can't stress that enough.
Yeah.
I mean, that's everything. There are potentially options that can keep you in your home, whether, like you said, it's a loan modification, forbearance. I mean, they'll stretch your loan out to a 40-year loan, whatever it is.
Do you want to explain what a forbearance is?
A forbearance is the payments that you're missing or that you can't make right now. They just basically add it as the balance on the end of your loan. So, if it's a temporary thing, like let's say you lose your job and you're out looking for a new job and you just have a couple months where you're unable to make ends meet or whatever, call your lender and say, hey, this is temporary. I'm struggling right now. Every lender has a loss mitigation department. Lenders do not want to foreclose.
Correct.
They lose. Everybody loses when you foreclose. Unless like Dick said, in this market, I mean, we've had clients that have come up to us and said, hey, I can't afford this, whether it's a divorce situation, loss of life, loss of job. And we've looked and their homes are worth significantly more than what they owe. And it's like, don't let the lawyers and the interest and the fees eat up your equity.
Yeah.
Get with your agent, put your house on the market. At least you walk away with something. Right. But just, like Dick said, I mean, not doing anything, the problem isn't going to go away. The lender's not just going to miraculously be like, oh, we'll just forget about those payments. You have to get a hold of them ASAP.
Now, does asking for a forbearance affect your credit?
It should not affect your credit. However, it's very rare that a forbearance will be granted without you already missing payments. That's same with the short sale.
It's one of those situations you can't actually get super ahead of then.
It's same with the short sale.
Okay.
It's very frustrating that so when you let's say you come out of this and you want to buy a house again, right? There's timing requirements if you have a foreclosure, if you have a deed in lieu or a short sale that you have to wait, right? And one of the ones that cracks me up is if you have a short sale where you didn't miss any payments, they'll allow you to purchase a home again and get financed in 2 years. There's no such thing as a short sale without missed payments. No lender is just going to be like, oh, okay, we'll
just
accept
take less money for the house.
No, you have to miss payments. That's the frustrating thing about this. But even before you miss your first payment, call your lender, go the 1-800 number that's on your mortgage statement or on your website that you go to pay, and let them know what's going on, and you will get ahead of the game.
Okay, great. So the forbearance itself won't affect your credit, but the missed payments to get there probably would.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
You can't have one without the other, unfortunately.
Okay, great. Got it. I mean, which kind of makes sense if you think about it, right? I mean, like if everybody could just add some payments onto the end of their loan to kind of catch up with no penalty, I mean, everybody would do it all the time. So it does make sense. Great. So what is a loan modification and how can it help?
Yep. So loan modification is like I just said a minute ago about let's say you have a 30-year term on your mortgage and you're struggling, you're not able to meet all your liabilities. They'll do an analysis. You'll send in your pay stubs, just like as if you were applying for a new loan, or if you were refinancing. You'll send in all of your income documentation. They'll do an analysis and they'll look at it and say, all right, well maybe if we stretch the payment out to a 40-year amortization, they'll qualify, and that'll help alleviate. So their monthly payment will go a little bit lower. You're still paying it back, and you're paying way more interest on a 40-year loan than you are on a 30-year loan. But that would be like a situation where it's modified. Not right now, but in the past, other forms of modification were principal curtailment, and that's where they actually look at your balance and say, all right, they owe $200,000. The market has really come down. The house is worth $100,000. Why don't we forgive $50,000 of the equity or of the mortgage, and we'll modify your loan so now you only owe $150,000. They forgive a portion of it. It's still better for the lender because the house is only worth $100,000,
right? But
they're reducing your payment. That's not happening right now, though, because again, the values are continually rising, and there's such a limited supply, and demand, problem that we see. But in the past, that was one form of modification as well.
Okay, Christin, are there any government programs out there to help with people?
Are there any government programs out there to help with people? Absolutely, of course there are. So there are programs like the Home Affordable Modification Program and the Home Affordable Refinance Program. They are designated to help struggling homeowners.
You see a lot of those, Sly? You see, because I know these were all big things back when the foreclosures were huge.
HARP.
Yeah, and I haven't seen much of it happening lately. I think we could get there with a lot of people overextending. But
there's still such a limited inventory that I think that it'll just get gobbled up.
Because of the equity values.
Look at the investors right now. Investors are scooping up property like crazy, and they're flipping homes, and they're rental prices are so high. I think that there's enough cash sitting on the sidelines that.
Here's where I think we might see it is if you look at places that are more vacation areas like Florida.
Yes,
where all those people bought Airbnbs.
Airbnb.
They can't rent them out. And
that's the ticking
payments.
time bomb that no one talks about. But here, I don't see that. But yeah, absolutely. Look at Coral Gables, Florida. They have thousands of listings right now when last year at this time they had a couple hundred.
Right.
People can't get out. Prices are going to come down. That's where you're going to see the foreclosures and opportunity for investors and
opportunity for investors.
But HARP was only for owner-occupied property.
Just gonna say
that's not they're not helping any investors. That's for sure.
Anyone owns an investment property, all those government programs, they're don't even need not apply.
No.
So okay. What about credit counseling options, Christin?
So credit counseling agencies provide advice on managing debt, creating budgets, and negotiating with lenders. They can also help homeowners understand their rights and options. Now, Sly, I know that as a lender, you've mentioned having lots of tips for clients, people who you aren't even actually working with yet, giving credit advice as well. So do you want to speak on that a little bit?
Please be careful. Buyer beware. There are so many scams out there for credit counseling. Recently, I could tell you a dozen stories of people where we pull their credit and none of their bills are being paid. They're super behind on all of their debt. Credit scores are shot, so it ruins your ability to buy. And we ask them, what's going on? Oh, well, I signed up with such and such company. I'm making my payments to them. They consolidated everything. No, they didn't. They just are pocketing your money and not paying your debt. And then they're going to dispute everything later and try to fix it. And it's a Band-Aid. It doesn't work.
So how do you navigate that then? How do you know who to trust? Because at that point, I have to assume, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm in the position where I am struggling and I got into this loan that I can't afford, I'm probably not trusting the lender, right? Because even though it's not them who did it to me whatsoever,
right.
You need someone to blame, right? And if you're not someone who's so self-aware that they're going to take their own blame, they might blame the lender who gave them that loan in the first place, right? Oh, you got me into this.
Right.
So they might not be as apt to trust a lender, but then at that point, how do you know who to trust if there's scams all over the place for credit counseling?
That's the $1 million question. There are some reputable companies, but that do this kind of thing, but you have to know what you're getting yourself into. Do the research, look at the reviews, look at the Better Business Bureau, see what people are complaining about. Don't just accept what they're telling you online, because we see it all the time. People are throwing money away and getting nothing out of it.
Absolutely. Want everyone to know that there are very strong federal and state laws that can help them in this whole process. In fact, one of the things as a constituent service, Ashley, when the S hit the fan back in 2008, all of the legislators were getting these questions. What can government do to help us? And that's how they came out with the HART programs and the HAMP programs and all these different things. So there's a connection. Work with your local elected officials, because they have access to people you don't, and that's called a constituent service. I'd say 97% of the people don't know what constituent service is, and the public doesn't even know they can call us and ask us for help. And then the last thing I want to get into before we got to run, what are the consequences of a foreclosure for a homeowner? Christin?
Foreclosure can significantly impact a homeowner's credit score, make it difficult to obtain future loans. It can also lead to the loss of the home and any equity built up in the property. And that is just, like Sly said, everybody loses in that situation.
Everyone, I want to thank you for joining us again. Happy 4th of July. Make sure you make it out to all your 4th of July festivities and fireworks. Ashley Jensen, thanks for joining us. Sly Marinca and Christin Kaufman. Everyone, have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the heart of our community, exploring the ins and outs of real estate and meeting the people who make Lake County truly remarkable. Remember, every property has a story, and every community member holds a key to unlocking our county's full potential. Don't miss out on discovering more hidden gems and expert insights. Make sure to tune in every Wednesday at 12 noon for another episode of Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr. Until then, keep exploring, keep dreaming, and keep unlocking the possibilities that await you in Lake County. Thank you for listening, and see you next week.